Chapter 3255. Do Changya's menacing expression returned to normal and he even smiled. He stared at Lu Junhua tenderly. Lu Junhua's heart trembled when he looked at her. She felt a kind of panic that she had never felt before. She didn't know what to do. They had only met twice and Do Changya had done many infuriating things. Yet, why couldn't she get angry at him? "Prince, go back and get your wound bandaged. You look really pale. Let's sit down and have a good talk if anything happens to you in the future." Although Lu Junhua could not remember anything, she gradually felt that she might be related to Lu Junhua. Regardless of whether there was anything going on between her and Do Changya or what happened afterward, she wanted to find out about her identity. If the Lu family did not mention Lu Junhua, she would not be able to find out about it. Do Changya was the only one who knew about it now. Perhaps she would be able to recall something after interacting with him. "Junhua, are you willing to see me?" "Yes, but you can't be as agitated as you were the previous 2 times. Actually, I want to find out about my identity too. I can't remember anything that happened in the past. If you want to see me, you can knock on the door. You don't have to use a knife." Seeing that Do Changya's wrist was still bleeding, Lu Junhua said worriedly, "Hurry and get a doctor to take a look at your injury. Regardless of what you do, you have to be healthy." "Okay, I'll get someone to get a doctor to bandage it for me." Do Changya immediately instructed his subordinates to get a doctor. Not long after, the doctor returned with a medical kit and bandaged Do Changya's wound. "Prince, you have to recuperate well. Don't practice martial arts for the time being." The doctor sighed and continued, "Your wrist has been injured. I'm afraid you won't be able to hold a knife in the future." "Doctor, is there no other way?" Lu Junhua asked anxiously. She felt that it would be a pity if Do Changya could not hold a knife in the future since he was still so young. Do Changya was initially infuriated. No matter what, he and Mei Shangji had become enemies. However, after hearing Lu Junhua's concern, he felt that his injury was worth it. If it weren't for the fact that his hand was injured, Junhua would not have come out to see him. At the thought of it, he really hoped that his injury would heal slowly. "It's alright, I'll use my left hand from now on. As long as Junhua is willing to see me, I won't be afraid even if I lose both my hands." Tang Guo and Mei Shangji looked at each other, then looked away tacitly. Mei Shangji was so angry that he laughed. He originally didn't have any opinions about Lu Junhua. Now, with Lu Junhua's performance, he had a lot of opinions. What kind of friends did Shengguan Qingchuan make? Didn't he see Do Changyi almost kill Little Fairy? However, Lu Junhua was so concerned about Do Changya's hand that she completely forgot that Do Changya had almost killed her. "Madam, are you all right?" Mei Shangji interrupted the two of them and asked in a loud voice, "Just now, this young master just happened to see the crown prince draw his sword and attack you. Were you scared silly? Don't you know how to dodge? If it wasn't for me, you would have lost your life." Actually, Mei Shangji had come to his senses. Even if he had not intervened, Little Fairy should be fine. After all, she was a little fairy. However, that was not the reason why he could forgive Do Changya for hurting her. Previously, he hadn't been able to find an opportunity to teach the other party a lesson, but today he could finally vent his anger. Vertex. Chapter 3256. Don't you think it was dangerous just now? Mei Shangji waved his fan and boasted, "Today, this young master has done a good deed." That cocky look of his was especially amusing and annoying, yet oddly adorable at the same time. "Yeah, I didn't expect the heir of the Marquis's mansion to want to kill his wife in public." "Heir, what feud do you have with her that you can't tolerate her?" "Yeah, since you don't like her, why did you agree to marry her?" "I've always felt that some people are worse than us. We can fool around, but if we marry a wife, we have to give her some face." "Yeah, although I'm a bit lecherous and have many concubines, I can guarantee that I didn't mistreat my wife. All the concubines may be doted on, but they can't be more doted on than the wife. It's even more impossible for me to abandon her on the night of my wedding and kill her in public. I heard that the heir of the Marquis's mansion is an infatuated person. He even married a memorial tablet for Lu Junhua. Since you're so infatuated with Lu Junhua, why did you delay her? You didn't treat her well after marrying her. You're really inhumane." "Yeah, you're inhumane. We can't stand it anymore." Old Madam was embarrassed to be criticized by the famous hedonists in the capital city. Do Changya seemed to be numb to it. He didn't care about it at all. "It's none of your business to meddle in the affairs of the Marquis's mansion." Disgusting thing. He did something immoral and still doesn't know his mistake. Why did everyone praise him in the past? I really don't understand. "And Miss Yun, you really can't tell right from wrong just now. If it weren't for our boss, Do Changya would have killed her. Do you really not know the truth?" Do Changya almost killed his wife and you're actually concerned about his injury. Miss Yun, you're making me laugh. Do you think you can get rid of me for the sake of the capital city? Lu Junhua's face was burning. She didn't think so much just now. She was just worried when she saw Do Changya's wrist bleeding profusely and had a strange feeling in her heart. Now that he thought about it, what he did just now was indeed a little inappropriate. You don't have to pay attention to them. They are all unreasonable people. Do Changya noticed the anger on Lu Junhua's face and said, I have nothing to do with her. Old madam is the one who fancies her. Don't get the wrong idea. Do Changya's explanation infuriated old madam. Tang family, help me get the air back, old madam shouted angrily as she slammed her walking stick on the ground. This time, Do Changya was on guard and dodged immediately. Tanghua had no chance to get close to him. Lu Junhua recalled how Tanghua had knocked Do Changya unconscious previously and felt a little sympathetic towards him. She always felt that the women of the Marquis' estate were a bit unreasonable. You don't have to invite me, I'll go back in a while. This time, Do Changya spoke up. Old madam, I won't create trouble again. Since Junhua had already agreed to see him, why was he still making a fuss? This Tang family was taking advantage of the conflict between him and the old madam. He wouldn't let her have her way. Do Changya was already planning in his heart how he could get together with Lu Junhua legitimately. He glanced at Tanghua coldly and thought to himself, I can't let the Tang family stay. Mei Shangji could sense it and frowned. This guy is trying to deal with my little fairy again? He's courting death. Peek. Chapter 3257. Old Madame Dowager stared at Do Changya doubtfully. Seeing that Do Changya did not seem as agitated as before, she thought that it was time for him to calm down. Since Do Changya said that he was willing to go back, he was still her grandson. If she were to go on, she might not be able to resolve the issue. Are you really willing to go back? Old Madame Dowager asked. Do Changya nodded and said, I'll speak to Miss Yun for a while before going back. Old Madame Dowager, if you're still worried, you can wait here for a while. Seeing that Do Changya was behaving well, Old Madame Dowager felt relieved and decided to trust him for once. All right, I'll wait for you here then. We'll go back together later. As long as Do Changya didn't act recklessly and brought his men to kidnap and break the door, there shouldn't be a problem. However, even then she still detested the person who looked exactly like Lu Junhua. If it weren't because of this woman, Do Changya wouldn't be so crazy. Do Changya really spoke to Lu Junhua for a while before walking towards Old Madame Dowager. Old Madame Dowager, let's go back. Just now he had figured out some things. Instead of going against Old Madame Dowager, it would be better to maintain peace on the surface. Since he couldn't make Junhua believe him for the time being, he needed time to let her remember what happened in the past. During this period he would maintain peace with Old Madame Dowager so that nothing would happen. Otherwise, Old Madame Dowager would bring her men to create trouble every time he came to look for her. He had already told Junhua just now that he would tell her about her background slowly in the future. When he was free he would even bring her to the places they used to go. Before Do Changya left, he turned back to look at Lu Junhua and the child beside her. If Junhua remembered everything and was willing to marry him, he wouldn't mind the child. Compared to the child, Junhua being alive was obviously more important. Mr. Mei, I have to go back too. Thank you so much for today. Tanghua nodded at Mei Shangji. Since Old Madame Dowager had gone back, she had to go back too. It shouldn't be long before the Marquis' estate will have a big show to sing. System. Host, are you preparing to divorce your husband? Tanghua said, almost. Mei Shangji tried his best to make himself appear more normal. It's just a casual thing. Although this young master is only a hedonistic son, I'm only a hedonistic son who likes to bully hedonistic tyrants. I'm not like some people who only know how to bully weak women. Although his little fairy was not a weak woman, the kind that could knock someone unconscious with a chop. But in his heart, she needed someone to protect her. I didn't expect young Master Mei to be such a principled person. Tanghua praised her and then left. Mei Shangji smiled foolishly. Yes, he was a very principled person. As expected, little fairy didn't understand the crowd. She was so special when it came to praising people. Mei Shangji only withdrew his gaze after Tanghua's figure disappeared. He felt that his subordinates were all looking at him. He flung his sleeves and said, Why are you all looking at me? Boss, your skills are so good. Didn't we agree to be trash together? Why did you secretly practice martial arts? The group of hedonistic subordinates surrounded Mei Shangji in the middle, as if they wouldn't leave until he made himself clear. Mei Shangji was rather pleased with himself. What do you know? Even if you're useless, you can still practice martial arts. Peak. Chapter 3258. Why, boss? Isn't it good to be a good-for-nothing who doesn't know how to eat, drink, and play? Anyway, even if the sky collapses, I'll be there to support it. What's there to be afraid of? What if I can't take it anymore? Mei Shangji said softly. Besides, wouldn't it be more convenient for us to bully others if we're good at martial arts? We may be a little useless, but as a person we must have a skill. If we can't take it anymore, we can continue to be good-for-nothings with this skill. Mei Shangji's words made the group of good-for-nothings better than studying for 10 years. They felt that it made sense. Yes, boss is good at martial arts. It's much more convenient for us to bully others. Just like just now, if boss didn't know martial arts, the dagger wouldn't have pierced Do Changya's wrist so accurately. If boss had sent someone to help, not only would they not have been able to stop it, they wouldn't have been as domineering as they were now. Okay, let's go, I'll treat you to some wine at the restaurant. Mei Shangji was in a good mood after being praised by Little Fairy. For the past year or so, he had been working hard to earn money and basically freeloading off of his underlings. It was rare for him to be so generous. He just felt that even if he was earning money, he couldn't squander it like before. The money that he was earning now was all for Little Fairy. However, he was too happy today and decided to treat his underlings to a meal. Boss, have you paid off your debt? Or did the King of General increase your monthly expenses? In the past year or so, their boss had become more and more stingy, but they didn't mind. After all, they didn't lack money. Although I'm still a little tight on money, I can't freeload off of you all the time. I'll treat you today. Mei Shangji's underlings were extremely touched by his words. Indeed, boss treated them well. Even though he knew that they didn't lack money, he still didn't want to take advantage of them. What Mei Shangji didn't know was that the sentence he said today, even if you're a hedonistic son of a rich family, you still need to have a skill, had been heard by these underlings. After the meal, the group of good-for-nothings pondered about what skills they could have. After a long time, these foppish young masters who were feared by everyone really had a skill that they could call their own, causing everyone to exclaim in admiration. Upon returning to the Duke's mansion, Do Changya stayed by old Madame's side and the two of them were chatting merrily. They didn't seem like they had gotten into a conflict at all. Although Madame Dowager did not think that Do Changyi would be so obedient as to give up looking for the woman with the surname Yun. However, now that Do Changya was no longer throwing a tantrum in front of her and had calmed down, she felt more at ease. Old Madam, I haven't talked to you in a long time. Let's have a good chat today. Do Changya suddenly said, I think there are many problems that we should solve properly. After all, we're family. The words, we are family, had already moved old Madam. Good. Changya, I'm really glad that you're willing to sit down and talk. Now, old Madam had learned to be smart. She didn't mention Lu Junhua or the woman surnamed Yun. She mainly felt that the woman with the surname Yun had a close relationship with the young emperor. Do Changya was just the heir of a crown prince. Could he really compete with the emperor? Could he win? She was Do Changya's grandmother. Instead of arguing with him and stopping him, she would rather talk to him calmly. Peak. Chapter 3259. Anyway, it was impossible for Do Changya to snatch her away from the young emperor. After figuring it out, old Madam suddenly felt that she had gone overboard. In particular, she had knocked Do Changya unconscious and locked him up. It was no wonder that he was angry. Changya, I stopped you previously because I was afraid that you would anger the emperor. We're just a small family, how can we compare to the emperor? I was just afraid that you would lose your life because of a woman. That's why I had no choice but to stop you. Do Changya said, Old Madam, sorry to have made you worry. I just felt that the woman resembled her a lot and I couldn't control myself. I've already thought it through just now and I won't act so impulsively in the future. Tang, you may go back first. I'd like to have a chat with Changya. Old Madam suddenly felt that Tang Guo was looking at her strangely and could not stand it. Hurry and go back. Now she felt that Tang Guo's ideas were all bad. Her grandson was not that bad. He was just bewitched by a woman who resembled her. Now that he had figured it out, he would not make the same mistake again. Old Madam, I won't disturb you then. Have a good chat. Hearing Tang Guo's perfunctory tone, Do Changya felt that he could not let Tang Guo stay. Tang Guo had actually turned the entire Duke's mansion upside down when he was not paying attention. If Tang Guo had not sowed discord, Old Madam would not have thought of locking him up with a metal chain. Tang Guo led the concubines back to the mansion leisurely. She looked relaxed, but these concubines were different. Every one of them had a frown on their faces. They could see the icy cold gaze in Do Changya's eyes. Now that he had reconciled with Old Madam, old madam was probably having a hard time. Indeed, in the next few days, Do Changya spent most of his time with old madam. The two of them were getting closer and closer, and they could no longer tolerate Tangua, who was an outsider. In that case, Tangua is different from what you've heard before? Old madam humphed coldly and said, "It's not just different, it's completely different." The matchmaker said it in a gentle and well-mannered manner. In the end, after interacting with her, I realized that she's a shrew who doesn't care about an old woman like me at all. Since you're so disobedient, why didn't old madam set the rules? Do Changya asked as he looked down. He would be worried as long as Madame Tang was in the mansion. And he had no intention of letting Tang Shi stay in the household. The other party was still using the name of his legal wife. In the future, when Junhua came to the Marquis's mansion, wouldn't she be very resistant to the Tang family? Since this was the case, he felt it was best to find a reason to kick Tang Kor out as soon as possible. It was definitely impossible to divorce her directly. After all, he didn't enter the Tang family's room on their wedding night. If word got out, he wouldn't be in the right and it would affect Junhua negatively. If he killed her with so many people watching, it would be even more unacceptable if Madame Tang died of an illness in the mansion. Old madam, since Tang's personality can't calm down, I have a suggestion. Old madam's eyes trembled. She knew that Do Changya's attitude had improved because he had not really let go of Yun Shi. However, as long as Do Changya was obedient and didn't create trouble, or act rashly to snatch Yun Shi away from the emperor, she could turn a blind eye to some things. What suggestion? Old madam asked. She wouldn't agree to divorce her. Peak. Chapter 3260. If he were to divorce her now, he would become a joke. Why don't we let Tang cultivate in the temple for a period of time and recuperate? She can also pray for old madam and father. What do you think? Do Changya suggested after careful consideration. He felt that it was the best solution at the moment. Old madam definitely wouldn't allow him to divorce her. Besides, if he were to really divorce her, he would become a joke in the mansion and old madam would definitely not agree. It was even more impossible for him to kill Tang. If he did not do it cleanly, he might even get into trouble. Besides, the concubines would not be able to fight against him. He had already found out that Tang had taken the concubines' slave contracts in order to protect him. Old madam would definitely agree to let Tang cultivate in the temple in the name of praying for blessings. According to the news he received, Tang Kor often went against the old madam and angered her to death. Old madam indeed thought that it was a good idea. She had always wanted to teach Tang a lesson. Now that Tang Changya had stopped kicking up a fuss with her, Tang was no longer of any use. Tang Changya would always smile weirdly in front of her and say some sarcastic things, which infuriated her. It's indeed time to send her to recuperate for a period of time. Since old madam has agreed, I'll make the arrangements. Do Changya was relieved. Since Tang Changya had gone to the temple, it was better for her not to come back. He had already found the most secluded temple with the toughest conditions. He also heard that there were bandits on the mountain where the temple was located. Tang Changya didn't know how long she could live there and it would depend on her fate. Tangwa didn't have much of a reaction when she heard about it. Unlike before, she didn't resist and instead agreed to pray for blessings this time. However, the concubines in the mansion were at a loss for words. They wanted to stop her but didn't know what to say. Since the heir and old madam had already reconciled, what right did they have to say anything? They understood that no matter how much old madam blamed the heir, she would still be close to him eventually. Poor madam, they didn't know when she would return. Don't worry, you guys stay in the mansion. Don't cause any trouble when I'm not around. What was there to worry about? She was going to live a carefree life soon. She did want to meet the bandits. Since they were bandits, it was simple. Since they had a feud and weren't good people, she could just kill them. But what Tangwa didn't expect was that when she went out the next day, several concubines actually carried their bags and went out with her. What are you guys doing? Tangwa understood that these people wanted to follow her. You don't need to follow me. I have Lychee by my side. Xiaoyu said, Madam, we went to see the Crown Prince last night. The Crown Prince has agreed to let us accompany Madam in her cultivation. Tangwa was a little speechless. Do Changya was just worried that he wouldn't be able to get rid of these concubines, yet they were rushing to do it. System, dear host, since all the ladies want to follow you, you can take them with you. To be careful. To be. System, I think so. Just like that, Tangwa brought the concubines to the temple to cultivate. It was announced that the concubines would be praying for blessings for the old madam and the duke who had been paralyzed for many years. Peak. Chapter 3261. In the beginning, no one felt that there was anything wrong. After all, such things would happen in many families. However, they would usually go for a month or 3 months. They had never seen someone who would not come back once they went. Damn it. When Mei Shangji heard this news, he smashed the table with his fist. He quickly sent people to inquire about Tangua's whereabouts. Half a day later, the people he sent came back and inquired about the conditions of the temple as well as its surroundings. The temple was called Qingguang Temple. It was not in a good condition and was located on the mountain. There were almost no signs of human habitation in the surroundings. It was said that there was no sign of human habitation because the mountain had been occupied by bandits. Qingguang Temple was able to survive until now because they did not have anything. The monks in the temple either grew their own food or dug up wild vegetables. Even if they robbed the temple for 100 years, they would not find anything good. However, a beautiful girl like Tangua was sent to that place to pray for blessings. If the bandits found out, would they still be alive? Mei Shangji was furious when he heard the news. Dou Changye actually bullied his little fairy. Mei Shangji did not stay for long and hurriedly went to look for the King of General. Father, let's discuss something. What's the matter? The King of General looked up. If you want to borrow a jade pillow, I won't give it to you. It's not that. Mei Shangji walked to the King of General. Father, I plan to do a good deed. Lend me some men. Although he had many men, they were not as powerful as his father. Moreover, it would be easier to use his father's bodyguards to do such a thing. His men could still bully the tyrants in the capital, but if they were to really use their knives to kill people, they would still be lacking. It seemed that he had to train a group of men. In order to protect his little fairy, he had to make some changes. What good deed? How many men do you need? Where are you going to do it? The King of General was still lying on the rattan chair and basking in the sun. His body was no longer in pain and he was living a comfortable life. However, his legs were still inconvenient. That was a permanent injury. Unless God was reincarnated, no one would be able to make his legs recover. If he could recover, he would not be able to resist the urge to go to the border again. Bandit suppression? I heard that there are many bandits in a place, causing the surrounding people to suffer. Mei Shangji said in all seriousness, growing up, I've heard many stories from my father, so I plan to get rid of evil for the people. After being a bastard for so many years, I also want to do something meaningful and give my father some face. The King of General had a strange look on his face. I don't believe it. Father, even if you don't believe me, you have to believe me. If you don't believe me, just watch. I'm really going to suppress bandits. I'll enter the palace in a while. I'll have to trouble Qingchuan to give me an imperial edict. I'm following an imperial edict to suppress bandits. The General King sat up. We're really going to exterminate the bandits. Really? All right, I'll give you 100 men. 50 will do. Mei Shangji entered the palace. Shengguan Qingchuan heard that he was going to suppress the bandits on the mountain of Qingguang Temple. Shangji, are you really going to investigate the bandits at Qingguang Temple? I've long heard that the bandits there often rob the people passing by the mountain. Unfortunately, I've sent soldiers there several times, but those bandits are very cunning and have been fruitless. Shengguan Qingchuan was very happy. All right, I'll immediately give you an imperial edict and send some soldiers to you. The Peak. Chapter 3262. Shengguan Qingchuan happily wrote the imperial edict. Shangji, actually, I always knew that as the son of the Lord General, you can't be a good-for-nothing. I still remember when I went out of the palace to play when I was little, and you helped me when I was cheated. At that time, I knew you weren't simple. Qingchuan, hurry up and write. I don't need soldiers. I borrowed my father's personal guards. It's too eye-catching to have too many people, and it'll easily arouse the vigilance of the bandits. I'm very worried about the people around me. I'll only be at ease after I kill all the bandits. By the way, this matter can't be spread before we succeed. I'm afraid that the bandits will hear the noise and slip away. This time I'll take my father's personal guards and disguise them as a caravan. When the bandits dare to come down, I'll make them suffer. Although he didn't know why his little fairy didn't resist and wanted to go to the temple to cultivate. But he could still do something to help her clean up the surroundings. He made that place quieter so that she could live comfortably. Life on the mountain was poor, and it wouldn't be convenient to buy anything. How about he arrange for a few merchants to go over to sell things later? Then he could create some rumors so that the people at the foot of the mountain would think that the Buddha of the Qingguang Temple had appeared, and they would all go to worship him. At that time, the mountain would be bustling with people, and there would naturally be more people buying things. The scenery there seemed to be good, and it was indeed a place to raise people. After Shangguan Qingchuan finished writing the imperial edict and stamped it, he found that Mei Shangji was leaning to one side, his eyes lost in thought. He could see the flickering light and joy in his eyes. Seeing this, Shangguan Qingchuan was somewhat happy. If Shangji could inherit everything of the Lord General, how good would it be to become another Lord General in the future? He thought highly of Mei Shangji, and since young he felt that Mei Shangji would do great things. If it weren't for Mei Shangji's restraint, those playboys in the capital would really become complete playboys and bullies, and not the upper-class playboys who only bullied playboys and bullies. That's right, Shangguan Qingchuan divided the playboys in the capital into different grades in his heart. Shangji, here you go. Thanks. Don't mention it. I've had a headache about the bandits in Qingguang Temple before. The people I sent couldn't catch them. Even if they could kill a few, they couldn't find their nest. Mei Shangji patted Shangguan Qingchuan's chest. You are still too inexperienced. My father said that the local bandits were colluding. They had already gotten the news and ran away. Is that true? Shangguan Qingchuan slapped the table angrily. He was paid a salary, but he didn't dare to do anything serious. He even dared to collude with bandits. I will definitely send someone to investigate this matter thoroughly. I will definitely not let this dog official off easy. Then there are many things to investigate. Mei Shangji said, you're tired enough. Every time you issue an edict, your subordinates go with great fanfare. They're not there to pay the fee at all but to scare the bandits. They're there to tell the bandits that the imperial court has sent people to exterminate them and for them to run quickly. Do you think they can exterminate them? Shangguan Qingchuan's face turned ugly. I'll choose a capable person. It's useless. Mei Shangji patted Shangguan Qingchuan's shoulder. The idea is good, but in reality it won't work. Capable people have been promoted by you. They have high official positions and are also loyal to you. But there is a drawback. What drawback? Mei Shangji laughed. The drawback is that if you move your ass, the whole capital will know. What's there to investigate? Top point. Chapter 3263. That's true. Shangguan Qingchuan fell into distress. After being assisted by Imperial Uncle for so many years, there are still many things that I can't handle well. There are too many things that I need to learn. Take it slow. Mei Shangji suddenly thought of something and said quietly, actually, if you really want to investigate something, if you want to govern, it's better to catch them off guard. The more unreliable they seem, the more miraculous they can be in the end. Shangji, just say it. Since you mentioned this today, there must be a way. Shangguan Qingchuan's eyes lit up. In his mind, Mei Shangji was also his boss. When he was still a young prince, he often played in the capital. It was always Mei Shangji who took him. It was too late to return to the palace, so he basically stayed in the general's residence. Others thought that Mei Shangji was an ignorant bastard, but in reality Mei Shangji was very good at everything. My subordinates don't have much to do recently. You all know them, we all grew up together. Summon them into the palace and have them help you with this matter. Wherever they go, everyone will think that they are sightseeing and not investigating a case. Shangji, you are indeed a talented person. Shangguan Qingchuan looked at Mei Shangji like he was looking at a delicious cake. I think that you can not only become a very excellent general, but also a very good civil official. Capable in civil and military matters, you are simply omnipotent. If my Dongshan kingdom had someone like you. I'm leaving first, don't find me if there's nothing. After suppressing the bandits, I will be very busy. I have to do a very important thing. Shangguan Qingchuan looked at Mei Shangji's departing figure with some disappointment, shaking his head. If Shangji likes power, I will give him as high an official as he wants. Even if he is a little greedy, there is no problem. Mei Shangji took the imperial edict and the general's 50 personal guards, disguised as passing merchants, and passed by the road at the foot of Qingguang Temple. At this time, Tanggua had already moved into Qingguang Temple. She had expected that the conditions of Qingguang Temple were very poor, so she had asked the shop assistants to send up many things in advance. Originally, Qiu Yu and the others were already here to suffer, but they didn't expect the room to be so clean. They didn't need to do anything at all. Madam, we don't seem to be of much help. Qiu Yu was a little ashamed. We've even caused you trouble. Tanggua shook her head and asked Liqi to take out the leaf play. You can still help me play the leaf play. It's still the same old rules. Those who lose 3 rounds will be eliminated. One day, when the host passed by the small courtyard where Tanggua lived, he suddenly heard noises coming from inside. The women who lived here were all from the Marquis's household. They had come to the temple to pray for blessings. If something were to happen, he wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Therefore he walked over. The door was open but he still knocked on the door. He was just about to ask if something had happened. Qiuyu said, "Ah, I finally won. Yunxiang Dong, or hurry up and pay up." The abbot looked at the womenfolk playing with leaves and didn't know what expression to make for a moment. He couldn't do anything about it. When he shook his head and was about to leave, he thought of something and knocked on the door again. Tangwa stood up and nodded, "So it's the abbot. May I know why the abbot has come?" Vertex. Chapter 3264. Dear benefactors, I'm just here to remind you. If there's nothing important, try not to go out. If you want to buy anything, just ask your attendants to go down the mountain. You may not know that there's a group of powerful bandits living in the mountain where the Qingguang Temple is located. The reason why they didn't rob the Qingguang Temple was that the temple was too poor and there was nothing to gain. But now it was different. These women were all beautiful. Once the bandits found out, who knew what would happen? Got it? Thank you, Abbot. Abbot, I think the temple is a bit shabby, so I'm going to donate some money to repair it. The abbot wanted to refuse, but Tangwa continued, especially the door outside the courtyard. It's too shabby. If we encounter any beasts, we may not be able to resist them, not to mention the bandits. The abbot thought about it and didn't refuse. In half a month, the temple had been repaired. Tangwa asked someone to take out the seeds and led Qiuyu and the others to plant vegetables in the open space around the temple. Looking at this situation, the abbot's view of Tangwa was different from before. Some things couldn't be judged based on the surface. Although these women didn't seem to be cultivating in seclusion, after all, no one cultivated in seclusion every day. But the abbot thought that the wife of the heir didn't need to cultivate in seclusion. Tangwa planned to deal with those bandits as soon as possible. After all, there were people around her every day and she couldn't leave. Otherwise, she would wait for the bandits to take the initiative to provoke them and then get rid of them, so as to make Do Changye's plan fail. The abbot was also worried that the bandits would come to the temple at any time. He was so tired that he only slept for 2 or 3 hours at night. Until one day many people came to the Qingguang temple. The abbot went out to receive them and was really shocked. Judging from the clothes of these people, they were all very rich. When he heard that these noble women were actually there to worship Buddha, the abbot received them with a kind face, but in fact he was very confused. Fortunately, the temple had been repaired, so it wasn't too rude to receive these nobles. The vegetables planted by Tangwa and the people in the temple could also be eaten. After these nobles paid their respects to the Buddha, they ate the vegetarian food here and were full of praise for this place, saying that it was indeed the place where the true Buddha manifested. After the abbot asked, he found out that there were rumors outside that a true Buddha had manifested in his temple. It was said that many people saw a true Buddha at the foot of the mountain one day. He was connected to the clouds in the sky and looked at everyone with a benevolent face. Because of that, countless people came to worship the Buddha. There were many people on the first day, the second day, and even more on the third day. Not only the nobles but even some of the commoners came up. At this moment the abbot heard another piece of news. The bandit lair had been wiped out. It was said that the current emperor had received the guidance of the true Buddha and sent people to suppress the bandits. Many people believed that the true Buddha was protecting these people and showing them the way. Because the bandits committed all kinds of evil and only bullied innocent people, the true Buddha couldn't stand it anymore and pointed the way for the soldiers. This time they were able to eliminate the bandits in one fell swoop. The abbot, who didn't believe anything and was still very confused, also said, "Amitabha, Buddha, bless us." Now he was really not worried that someone would come to the temple and hurt the women. Suddenly he had a flash of inspiration. He felt that these women were probably fated to meet the Buddha. Otherwise, why would the true Buddha manifest when they came? The system told Tangwa the whole story and even praised her. "Host, your big cutie is really a talent. She's very skilled at using public opinion to create hype. Look, she eliminated the bandits and protected you. She also made the incense here flourish and attracted the merchants. At the same time, she also gained a good reputation for the little emperor. Impressive, impressive." Chapter 3265. At this time Shengguan Yungu also spoke in the group. "Shengguan Yungu, Martial Uncle Shangji is not bad. I think the test is almost over. He is not greedy for power. Are you going to take him as a disciple?" To be honest, he was really surprised by what Mei Shangji had done. He had only eliminated one bandit and helped the little prince gain such a great reputation. That guy was good, he didn't leave his name at all. Until now, everyone still thought that it was the emperor who had sent the imperial guards to eliminate the bandits. This guy who didn't seek fame and benefits was really likable, but also somewhat helpless. Because of the existence of those bandits, the lives of the common people at the foot of Qingguang Temple could be said to be miserable. In addition, the officials who were in charge here were not competent, so the common people's lives were even worse. There were really a lot of places like this. It couldn't be solved in a short time. The little emperor had sent officials from the imperial court to solve it several times, but they could only manage for a while and couldn't completely cure it. That day he heard from Shengguan Qingchuan that he had sent people to secretly investigate those corrupt officials who preyed on the common people. The officials who were in charge of Qingguang Temple had been investigated a few days ago. They had been escorted back to the capital and were basically beheaded. The newly appointed officials had also come. Although all the malignant tumors had been pulled out, it would still take time for the common people to recover their prosperous lives. But at this time Mei Shangji did another thing. He sent people to spread rumors that Buddha had appeared in Qingguang Temple. If 1 or 2 people said this, no one might believe it. But if a group of people who passed by here said there was, then many people would think there was. Sure enough, it didn't take long for many people to come to Qingguang Temple to pray. These nobles came to worship Buddha and the journey was long, so it was impossible to always bring dry food. If there were cooked food, pancakes and tea along the way, it would be the best. Even more, because this place was remote, there were only common people's houses at the foot of the mountain, there were no inns or restaurants. Some people who came from far away to worship Buddha might have to stay in the common people's houses. In this way the common people who had received money would have a better life, wouldn't they? It was said that there were already some village bosses who had begun to renovate their houses and cook some delicacies to attract guests who came to worship Buddha. Shengguan Yungu, martial uncle, this Mei Shangji is very smart. He is indeed a talent. Shengguan Yungu kept talking about how good Mei Shangji was. Little did he know that the people in the group were extremely quiet, watching him praise Mei Shangji over and over again. Shengguan Yungu, I believe martial uncle has his own conclusions. System, you really are a 10,000-year-old single dog. No wonder you're still single at such an old age. With Shengguan Yungu's current state, he felt that it would be very difficult for him to leave his single life. Campus bell? Well, I have other considerations about this matter. You don't have to worry. In fact, I also think highly of him. Everyone in the group, is she thinking about when she's going to marry that thick-skinned brat? He did not know what kind of expression Shengguan Yungu, this silly boy, would have when he knew the truth. Originally, they didn't intend to hide it from Shengguan Yungu. Later, they discovered that Shengguan Yungu's guess was wrong. They had a tacit understanding not to tell the truth. They were waiting for the other party to discover the truth. They were especially looking forward to that moment. Vertex. Chapter 3266. Hearing Tang Wu's words, Shengguan Yungu was relieved. Since Mei Shangji was interested in being an official and a great general, it would be good if he could get the immortal fate. After Mei Shangji quietly did something big, he didn't ask for credit or reward. Instead, he became the idle hedonist from before. After returning to the capital, he found that his little brothers were all gone. Qingchuan, you're really not a friend. I worked so hard to suppress the bandits, and when I came back you actually saw that my little brothers were sent out? Do you not have any ministers to use? These dandy are all good enough. Shengguan Qingchuan was not angry at all, and hurriedly said happily, good enough, good enough. I think these upper-class dandy are much more useful than the ministers in the imperial court in my hands. As he spoke, he even showed some secret memorials to Mei Shangji. Shangji, the idea you gave me was really good. Imperial uncle was right, you really can't judge a person by their appearance. Although they are all dandy, they also have their own areas of expertise. With the help of these beloved ministers, I can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Shengguan Qingchuan said excitedly, recently, I personally supervised the execution of many corrupt officials. These damn things really think that the heavens are high and the emperor is far away. Right, Shangji, what reward do you want? What official position do you want? You can pick one. Mei Shangji jumped very far in an instant. I don't want to be an official. Suppressing the bandits was just a momentary distraction. Alright, I just wanted to make my father happy. Shengguan Qingchuan was somewhat disappointed. Sai, I thought you had thought it through and was willing to help me. If you are willing to help me, the world will definitely get better and better. When the time comes, seeing the world at peace and the people living and working in peace and contentment, you will be gratified. I think not. You are the emperor and a very smart and capable emperor. You alone can govern the world very well. This is something that will happen sooner or later. Mei Shangji said, even if I slack off for 3 days and dry the net for 2 days, I probably won't be able to get along with those people in the imperial court. If I really go to court and quarrel, I might make a move. Shangguan Qingchuan, our relationship is quite good in private, but on the surface if I can't control and make a move, wouldn't that put you in a difficult position? For your sake, for my safety, let's do this. Shangguan Qingchuan did not force him and instead talked about another matter. Shangji, that Miss Yun, do you think she is really Lu Junhua? Actually, I'm here to talk about this too. Dou Changye had bullied his little fairy. How could he let him off so easily? Oh, what did you find? I have a Shangji, but I can still feel it. It's so powerful that it's always trying to control my actions. I've never been able to figure out what's going on with her. Shangguan Qingchuan pondered for a moment. I always feel that royal uncle and that princess should know something. Madam? The one. Shangji was Chuan. Qingchuan's 4, Mei Shangji was stunned. What did Holy King Duan call the princess's wife? Ah, no way. Peek. Chapter 3267. Saint King Duan, that old fellow, actually called his little fairy martial uncle? If that was the case, cough cough, in the future wouldn't he be 1 generation higher than the other and 2 generations higher than the little emperor in front of him? Ha 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 ha, when he and little fairy got together in the future, that old sage King Duan would have to call him granduncle for life. This was really good news. Martial uncle, I heard it with my own ears. I've always called her martial uncle, I've never heard of it before. Shangguan Qingchuan frowned. The princess's wife is not simple. Have you noticed that my royal uncle has become younger than before? He was injured countless times before, and his body should be similar to the general king's, but now he's much better. He suspected that his royal uncle had met an immortal and worshipped Lin Immortal as his master. The princess's wife could be the immortal's junior sister, who had descended to the mortal world to gain experience. If that was the case, it would explain why the imperial uncle addressed the princess's wife as martial aunt. I see. By the way, you haven't been out of the palace to see Miss Yun recently, have you? Shangguan Qingchuan shook his head. No, I've been dealing with a lot of affairs recently, so I haven't had time to see her. Moreover, I've treated her well and I've done my duty. If it wasn't for the strange power in her that I haven't figured out, I would have left her alone. Shangguan Qingchuan didn't have any thoughts about Lu Junhua. Speaking of beautiful women, according to his understanding of his harem concubines, they were all talented and were all his. When he was free he could talk to them and listen to music. Wasn't that good? Why should he accompany a woman who had nothing to do with him? His heart still ached for that house in the capital. He didn't know when that woman would be able to leave that place. He had taken the initiative to let her move in, and even said that she could stay as long as she wanted. Nothing had happened, so it would be embarrassing to take back what he had said. What's the matter? Did you notice anything strange? Mei Shangji whispered. Do you know Dou Changye? Yes, the prince of the Marquis's mansion, the one who is called infatuated. Yes, that's him. Recently, my people found that he often sneaked into that house in the middle of the night to meet Miss Yun. The two of them didn't do anything strange. They just sat in the courtyard and chatted for the whole night. Shangguan Qingchuan felt strange. Didn't he fiercely chop down the door and snatch people before? How can he talk about this? Like you said, she might be Lu Junhua. Maybe she still wants to get close to Dou Changye subconsciously. Mei Shangji said faintly, it's such a pity that the wife of the crown prince was sent to a dilapidated temple by Dou Changye. He used the same excuse to send the concubines there too. This time he most likely won't have the chance to come back. Dou Changye is really hateful. Shangguan Qingchuan frowned. I'm afraid he's making room for Miss Yun. Most likely. Shangji, think of a way to teach Dou Changye a lesson. The wife of the crown prince is my uncle's martial aunt. She's definitely not a simple person. Mei Shangji smiled. Since we've played together since we were young, I'll help you out. The two of them muttered to each other for a long time. Finally, Mei Shangji left the palace. In the middle of the night, Dou Changye sneaked to the back of Lu Junhua's house just like before. Vertex. Chapter 3268. There was a tree outside the wall and he would climb up the tree and wait for Lu Junhua to come out. Tonight, just like before, he leaped onto the tree trunk and sat in the middle of it. However, as soon as he sat down, he felt that something was amiss. He seemed to have sat on something sharp. At first, he thought that it was just wood shavings, but after a while, his body began to turn numb and he could no longer move. It was late at night and he couldn't even scream or move his body. He couldn't even use his internal energy. It was indeed a little uncomfortable on such a cold night. Most importantly, Lu Junhua had already come out and was quietly sitting against the wall. Due to the fact that the tree was too tall, she only took a glance and realized that there was a figure chatting with Dou Changye. Do Changya was chatting with Lu Junhua, forgetting that he was not wearing thick clothes and couldn't use his internal energy. He couldn't even move. Junhua, have you remembered? I vaguely remember some of it, but I can't remember most of it. Do Changya was overjoyed. Come back to the mansion with me then. You're the only one who can stand by my side. You're the one I like. What about your wife now? Lu Junhua did feel that she might really be Lu Junhua, but she couldn't agree to it so easily before she remembered everything. After all, she didn't know what had happened between her and Do Changya. Hence, she directly asked about Do Changya's wife. Everyone in Capital City knew that Do Changya disliked other women, so she didn't mind the existence of his wife. She heard that she had even gone to Qingguang Temple to cultivate, and she didn't know when she would be back. As long as you're willing to be with me, you'll be my only wife. Junhua, you don't have to worry about anything else. I'll get rid of those eyesores for you. I've never had any other woman apart from you. Do Changya had forgotten about the existence of the two concubines who had gotten pregnant after scheming against him. Junhua, as long as you're willing, I'll get rid of anyone who tries to stop us, he said, including the owner of the mansion, the current emperor. Do Changya had already realized why the emperor wanted to raise her there. He indeed couldn't go against the emperor with his small mansion. If the emperor was no longer the emperor but a dethroned emperor, would the other party be able to stop him and Junhua? They chatted until daybreak and Do Changya's body stiffened. Lu Junhua was far away from Do Changya, so she did not notice him at all. In the end, she bade farewell to Do Changya and went into the house to rest. Do Changya's body was still numb and he couldn't move at all. Do Changya could only move slightly after daybreak. However, he lost his balance and fell onto the ground. Someone happened to pass by and recognized Do Changya's face. He immediately gave him a look of disdain and left quickly. This group of people were famous scholars in the capital. They had gone out early in the morning to tour the lake. The lake was frozen, and to them it was a unique scenery. Within half a day, the news of Do Changya hiding on a tree behind a mansion and peeking at the women in the backyard spread like wildfire. Do Changya had been warming himself up in the house. Upon hearing the news, he was indeed infuriated. But now he had something more important to do. He had already realized that if it was just a small heir of the Marquis's household, not only would the old madam stop him, the Lu family would also stop Lu Junhua, and there would also be the emperor who would interfere. Vertex. Chapter 3269. If the emperor was someone else and he was the one assisting the emperor, even old madam would have no choice but to agree to it. After making this decision, Do Changya rested for 2 days before he began to plan this matter. It was not that he had never thought of rebelling and ascending to the throne, but the price he had to pay was huge and he might not succeed. Now that the young emperor was famous and had dealt with many corrupt officials, he was loved and respected by the people. If he were to have breakfast, not only would he not have the right to do so, he would also need a long time to prepare. Even if he could afford to wait, would Junhua be able to? Perhaps one day the young emperor would bring Junhua to the palace? By then it would be even more difficult to see her. In the end, Do Changya decided to choose someone with ambition and ideas among the princes. The young emperor was personally chosen by the late emperor. Perhaps the late emperor knew that he did not have a long lifespan. After all, he was not in good health and could not withstand all kinds of political battles. Hence, he decided on a candidate right from the start and chased the other princes who were of age out of the palace to build a mansion so that they would not have any ideas. With King Duan, the young emperor's ascension to the throne was very smooth. Especially in the past few years, he had also solved the problems of many small countries. Now that the external problems had been solved, he had begun to solve the internal problems. If the young emperor's brothers had any objections, they definitely did. However, the young emperor's position was too stable and they did not dare to touch him. He had to choose a prince who was still unwilling to give up and wanted to be the emperor. He believed that very few people could resist the temptation. Do Changya acted quickly and soon he decided on his target, King Ping, and met him. After various probing, both parties reached an agreement. King Ping had always been unwilling to just be a prince. He was clearly older and smarter than the young emperor, but the late emperor still chased him out of the palace to build a mansion. Although he was crowned a prince earlier, he did not like such an honor at all. What he liked was the feeling of sitting on the throne and looking down on everyone. The two of them secretly plotted their rebellion, completely unaware that everything was already under the control of a few people. None of their actions could escape the eyes of those people. With the system's current ability, it could easily cover the location of the capital city and know clearly how many times Do Changya went to the toilet. Of course, Tangwa knew what he was doing. Mei Shangji had always held a grudge against Dou Changye for bullying his fairy. He had been keeping an eye on Dou Changye every day. How could he not know what Dou Changye was doing? Now that he had trained a group of people, they might not be good at killing and fighting, but it was still easy for them to follow people. Since Mei Shangji knew about it, he would definitely report this news to the little emperor. Therefore, the little emperor knew about it at the first moment. But he wasn't flustered or angry at all. Everything about these two people was exposed right under his nose. It was as if he was looking at clowns. What was he panicking about? He had planned to make the two of them submit before taking the opportunity to deal with King Ping. King Ping had always been restless and would often disagree with him on certain matters. In short, every word of his was particularly aggressive. Although the other party failed in the end, it still made him feel uncomfortable. Due to the previous emperor's decree, he had to treat these brothers who had been driven out of the palace early on to build a mansion. Vertex. Chapter 3270. Since the other party did not commit any major mistakes, he turned a blind eye to it. His other brothers were well behaved, he had given them all the honor they deserved and had never mistreated them. This King Ping's ambition could be sensed from every word he said. Even with that kind of attitude, he still wanted to rebel. He didn't even know how to restrain himself. Why didn't he just ascend to heaven? Shangguan Yungu naturally knew about it and had informed the little emperor about it. He already knew the plot. When he saw that King Ping and Dou Changye were working together, he was exasperated. He recalled that in the plot he was poisoned to death by Dou Changye and King Ping. The little emperor eventually became a dethroned emperor and did not have a good ending. He did not plan to ask too much. The late emperor had asked Shangguan Qingchuan to treat his brothers well, but this rebellion was not included in it. However, when he saw the news about Dou Changye and King Ping, he felt that Shangguan Qingchuan in the plot was not very smart. Recently, Shangguan Qingchuan could often see that Shangguan Yungu looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. It was a little strange. Breakfast had to be planned for a while. Even if there were people working together, it was not something that could be done in a short time. For example, Shangguan Qingchuan was loved by the people and they did not dare to do anything to him. They planned to take action after the limelight had died down. At this moment, Shangguan Qingchuan received a piece of good news. It turned out that some of the foppish men he sent out had found some food that could be used as staple food in the wild. They even dug some back and planned to try cultivating them. If the yield was good, they could plant them in large quantities. By then, it would solve the problem of food and clothing for the people in many places. Shangguan Qingchuan was overjoyed. He immediately gave a lot of preferential treatment and asked a certain foppish man to cultivate them seriously. Not long after, another foppish man said that he wanted to go overseas to take a look. It was because he had discovered many interesting things in this world. In particular, he found the things brought by the merchant ships from far away to be very interesting. Shangguan Qingchuan could not decide on this matter. It was a good thing to bring new items and bring them out, but there would be many disadvantages. He first asked Mei Shangji, who agreed with him. Then he asked Shangguan Yungu for his opinion, who agreed with him. Shangguan Yungu had read many books about other worlds, so he definitely agreed. Since the two people closest to him agreed, Shangguan Qingchuan agreed. Within a few months, all the playboys in the capital had disappeared. When Mei Shangji went out every day, his surroundings were always cold and cheerless. He was still a little unaccustomed to it. After walking for a while, he returned to the mansion and lay down on the rattan chair beside the General King. "Father, I don't have a single underling anymore. Qingchuan is a bit too much. He sent all of my little brothers over to order them around. Now, I won't be able to drink with me for a while." "Silly boy, when your underlings are all successful, you as the boss will be even more impressive." The General King smiled as he said, "Besides, aren't you thinking of tricking your little fairy into entering the manor? It had been so long, why hadn't he succeeded yet? Also, when a man is married, don't think about drinking all day. Otherwise, your little fairy will not want you and fly away." "I'm trying to cheat her, but I haven't succeeded yet. You have to do things step by step. You can't be impatient." Mei Shangji was actually a little distressed. If Tang Guo wasn't willing, did he have to force her to agree? Vertex. Chapter 3271. In addition, with their identities, he couldn't openly provoke them. Qingguang Temple was a place of Buddhism, so it wasn't very good to do such things. Not only would it damage Little Fairy's reputation, but it would also damage her good fortune. It was fine if it affected himself, but what if it affected his father and Little Fairy, who he cared about? Mei Shangji felt that he couldn't wait any longer and had to take the initiative. "So, What was he going to do next? Although he couldn't do it himself, he could publicize what Do Changya had been doing recently and let everyone in the capital city know that he had been chatting with Lu Junhua in the middle of the night. It wouldn't be good for his reputation if word got out. Mei Shangji didn't know that Tanghua had also instructed her servants to spread the news about what Do Changya had been doing recently. She even spread the news that Do Changya had chased them to Qingguang Temple in order to make room for Lu Junhua. Just like that, the two of them cooperated without knowing. Within half a day, not only the capital city, but also the people around Qingguang Temple within a 5-kilometer radius of the capital city knew about it. Many people who went to Qingguang Temple to pray would look at Tanghua pitifully when they bumped into her. The scholars in the capital city had already begun to write poems to criticize Do Changya. Although Do Changya didn't care about it, he was still infuriated to hear it. Lu Junhua rarely went out and her meals and accommodation were all arranged by the little emperor. Hence, she didn't have to worry about food or clothing. Do Changya would chat with her every night and the two of them had a great time chatting. Occasionally, Do Changya would bring Lu Junhua out at night to the places they used to go. However, if he did this kind of thing too many times, he would eventually be seen by others. Even Tanghua, who was on her way back in the carriage, bumped into Do Changya. In particular, the recent results made Lu Junhua remember many things and she felt that she and Do Changya should be very loving. Hence, she was getting closer to Do Changya. They sat by the river and held hands while chatting. Do Changya even said to Lu Junhua, "When you remember, let's get married. The fact that I married your memorial tablet doesn't count. Let's start afresh this time. As for my stepwife, you don't have to care about it. I don't like her in the first place and there's nothing between us. It was old madam who brought them together. If you mind, I'll divorce her directly." "Let's talk about this later." Lu Junhua did not agree. "Is it okay for you to divorce her for no reason? She is a shrewish and rude person. Sending her to Qingguang Temple to cultivate her body and mind would probably be of no use. If you think it's cruel to divorce her, then let her stay in Qingguang Temple eating and drinking as long as she doesn't come back to disturb us." Of course, Lu Junhua minded the fact that Do Changya had a stepwife. However, she could only remember some fragments of her memory because she had yet to recover fully. Therefore, she did not dare to give a definite answer. "Let's wait until I remember everything. It's too early to talk about this now." Tanghua and the other concubines were standing behind the big rock. Chiu Yu and the others were furious. Apart from the few concubines who were casually arranged by old madam, Do Changya asked himself, "Was I the one who agreed to marry old madam? They must have been blind to have admired this man before. He really didn't deserve such a good person like madam." Vertex. Chapter 3272. "Miss Yun, I think it's getting late. Since everyone is here, let's make things clear." Tanghua walked out from behind the rock. It was not a coincidence that she was here. She had planned it all out. If she did not see the two of them being intimate and talking about things that she could not tolerate, how could she find an excuse to divorce him? Do Changya and Lu Junhua were shocked. They did not expect that there would be someone behind the rock. Especially Do Changya, who was a martial artist. How could he not sense the presence of a few ordinary people? He should have been able to sense them since they were so close to him. However, he did not think so much. He and Lu Junhua were indeed immersed in each other just now and might have neglected their surroundings. Now that this matter was seen by Tanghua, he didn't panic at all. Instead, he looked at Tanghua with an indifferent look, as if this was what she saw, but she couldn't do anything about it. If she was an ordinary woman, she would have been embarrassed. "Aren't you praying for blessings in Qingguang Temple? Why are you here in the middle of the night?" Do Changya reproached. "Hurry up and go back. What about the crown prince? In the middle of the night, you're holding a girl's hand and saying that you're going to pretend that I don't exist. You're going to divorce me after marrying her and even let me stay in Qingguang Temple forever. Your Highness, aren't you looking down on others?" Do Changya sneered. "Isn't it your choice to marry into the Duke's mansion? I told you on our wedding night that I can't possibly like you and I won't acknowledge you. I told you to stay in the Duke's mansion. If you're obedient, I'll let you live a carefree life. If you don't, Crown Prince, you might have misunderstood. You've never raised me. I also forgot that I originally had a seamless shop in the main city of the capital. In the past few years, I've expanded it to more than 30. I used to have more than 60 mu of land, but now I have more than 400 mu of land." Tanghua leaned against the rock and said with a smile, "Who needs you to raise me? Who gave you the courage to think that I'll starve to death if you don't give me food?" Chiu Yu and the other concubines widened their eyes. Was their madam so rich? Do Changya was also shocked. His stepwife was actually so rich. Since you want to marry someone else, it means that you don't put me, your legal wife, in your eyes. Let's settle this matter properly. Since you don't like me and I can't count on you, let's just break up. Do Changye was taken aback again, for he did not expect Tangwa to take the initiative to break up with him. Suddenly he felt that it was very reasonable. This girl was different from the rumors. Even if she left the Marquis's estate, she probably wouldn't mind what others said. Are you really willing to leave the mansion? Do Changye asked. Tangwa nodded her head, of course. Shitsi hugged a woman in the middle of the night and confided in each other. This woman hasn't even married into the mansion yet, but she has already made arrangements for my funeral. I don't dare to stay in a place like the Marquis's estate, a tiger's den. If I stay any longer, perhaps the young master will poison me to death if he feels uncomfortable. Do Changye humphed coldly, since you're self-aware, I'll write you a letter tomorrow. Leave the mansion immediately with the letter. Do Changye was of course more than happy to get rid of Tangwa, who was an eyesore, without any effort. After all, he was now doing something big and his stepwife was a small matter. Chapter 3273. While Do Changye was daydreaming, Tangwa glanced at him coldly and did not respond to him. It was night time and it was not suitable for them to travel. Even if they traveled through the night, they would not be able to enter the city in a carriage. She was a lady from a wealthy family and she could not possibly be like Do Changye, could she? System, check your conscience first. Your Highness, let's enter the city together tomorrow. Let's not delay any further and settle this matter as soon as possible. What do you think? Do Changye naturally agreed to Tangwa's suggestion this time. It was rare for him to find her pleasing to the eye. I think these concubines of yours are good at serving people. Besides, I have the indenture agreement with me. I'll take them away too. Tangwa felt that Do Changye was a fickle person. Hence, she took out a piece of paper and an ink pad. Your Highness, I don't want you to feel that these concubines are too beautiful to part with. Why don't you give them a thumbprint first? Chiu Yu and the other concubines looked at Tangwa eagerly while thinking to themselves, serving madam? If serving madam was considered serving her, they would be willing to serve her for the rest of their lives. They knew that Tangwa was just making up an excuse to take them away. Tangwa's original intention of keeping these concubines was not to do so. At that time, she had intended to take care of these concubines and treat them well so as to keep Do Changye away. However, these concubines were all obedient, which was completely different from what she had imagined. Shouldn't the concubines look down on her, the unfavored wife of the heir, roll their eyes at her every day and show off in front of her? System, host, you're so charming that these concubines have all fallen for you. How could they possibly roll their eyes at you now that you have their hearts set on you? Tangwa felt that if she were to leave now and leave these concubines behind, they would definitely come to a bad end. Given Do Changye's character, he would either sell them off or send them to the nunnery to be alone for the rest of their lives. Hence, she had no choice but to take them away. As for the person who could keep Do Changye away, Madame Dowager already had two people by her side. Tangwa's lips curled into a smile. She wondered when Madame Dowager would be able to use the cultivation dispersing pill she gave her. Do Changye was so angry that he laughed. Those concubines who had nothing to do with him had better get out of here. Hence he didn't hesitate at all. With the help of the lantern in Lichi's hand, he glanced at the words on the paper and pressed his fingerprint on it. He even planned to sell these concubines after divorcing Tangwa. They were just concubines anyway and they were all arrogant. In order not to alienate Junhua, they had to be dealt with. If they could be sold, they would sell them. If they couldn't, like Qin Xinyun, they would chase them back to their parents' home or send them to the nunnery. In short, she couldn't be an eyesore to Junhua. Now, not only had Tangwa left, but she had also taken all these troubles with her. Naturally, he was very happy. Your Highness, you're indeed a straightforward person. Since we're going to part ways, I won't disturb you. Tangwa took a deep look at Lu Junhua and said, Miss Yun, you don't have to mind my gaze now. Regardless of whether you're holding hands with your Highness, hugging him, or doing anything else, it has nothing to do with me. Tangwa's words made Lu Junhua's face turn red. However, at night, even the moonlight couldn't be seen clearly. Chapter 3274. Do Changye's gaze changed slightly. Before he could say anything, Tangwa turned around and entered the luxurious carriage. The carriage was custom-made by her. It was spacious and could accommodate a few people. Anyway, the concubines and maids could all fit in. It was warm and cozy inside the carriage. It was unlike outside where it was chilly and the wind would make one shiver. "Madam, do you plan to leave the mansion?" Qin Xinyun asked softly. "Madam, are you taking me away too?" Tang Guo looked up and asked, "Don't you want to leave?" No, I'm just glad that you're willing to take me away. Otherwise, I'd either be chased back to my parents' home or sent to the nunnery. I wouldn't have a good life there. The heir finds me an eyesore and the family despises me for being a disgrace. They won't accept me anymore." Tang Guo nodded and said, "I'll take all of you with me since you've been so obedient. However, you'll have to work to support yourselves in the future. I have many shops under my name. Once I've settled the matter with Do Changye tomorrow, I'll send someone to bring all of you there." She had never thought of taking care of these concubines. Once she divorced her husband, she would be getting remarried. She didn't want these concubines to hang around her every day and disturb her honeymoon. Qin Xinyun and the rest felt that it was only right. Most of them were not born in a noble family and some of them even grew up doing manual labor. Qin Xinyun was slightly better, but she also felt that she shouldn't trouble Tang Guo all the time. Hence, she gladly accepted the arrangement. "System. Host, don't you think you're a scumbag? I'm letting them earn their own living. If they don't do anything, they'll become useless sooner or later and only know how to rely on others." No matter where or what era it was, no matter if it was a man or a woman, a capable person would not have a bad life. If they don't know how to do anything, they can only get married and serve their husband's family. Now that the opportunity has been given to them, it's up to them whether they can seize it or not. System, that makes sense. If they don't work hard, they'll be married off. Once I get remarried, I won't be playing tricks anymore. I'll just do it to pass the time when I'm bored. System, that's right. Now that you're married to Big Cutie, you definitely won't be bored. If you bring a few concubines with you, Big Cutie will probably get angry. In the second half of the night, Tang Guo and several concubines gradually fell asleep. On the other hand, Do Changye and Gu Changge, who were chatting happily at first, were no longer as comfortable. "Is it a little cold?" Do Changye noticed that Lu Junhua was trembling when she spoke. Unlike him, she did not have any internal energy to protect her body. Even if he had internal energy to protect his body, it was still very cold in the second half of the night. It was fine if the wind didn't blow, but once it did, it would be even more uncomfortable. As soon as Lu Junhua finished speaking, she was hugged by Do Changye. His warmth made her feel at ease. At that time, she thought that perhaps there was only love between her and Do Changye, and there was no other feud between them. "Still cold?" "I'm not cold anymore." Actually, it was still a little cold. In this cold weather, it wasn't as if she wouldn't feel cold just because she was being hugged. She hugged the top, but the bottom was still cold. The feeling was indescribable, especially when the wind blew. What made the two of them even more frustrated was the fact that it started drizzling. Do Changye brought Lu Junhua to hide under a tree and saw that there were umbrellas on Tang Guo's carriage. Chapter 3275. There were actually two carriages. One was a luxurious one for Tang Guo. The other one was for the servants. There were umbrellas above the two carriages so that they wouldn't get wet. Do Changye walked towards the carriage and was immediately stopped by two guards who were wearing bamboo hats. "What are you doing?" "I'd like to borrow an umbrella." "No, even if you do, you'll have to wait until Master wakes up. Hurry back and speak softly. Don't disturb Master's rest." The servants didn't give them any face at all. They didn't know who Do Changye was, but they knew that he was the person in the carriage who brought them back when they were almost starving to death. He was their benefactor. They didn't have a good impression of Do Changye at all. They would do anything to kill Do Changye if their master ordered them to do so. It was the middle of the night. Even if they killed him, they could find a place to bury him and no one would find out. Displeased with their tone, Do Changye retorted, "Doesn't the Tang Corporation discipline the two of you properly? Heir of the Duke's mansion, let me give you a piece of advice. Hurry up and leave. Otherwise I won't go easy on you." Seeing that the two of them were about to draw their swords, Do Changye felt a murderous aura. He humphed coldly and left. The Tang family was really despicable. Although it was drizzling, Do Changye and Lu Junhua were already soaked by the time the sun rose. There weren't many trees around. No matter how hard they tried to avoid the rain, it would still drift in. It was late at night and they didn't dare to walk too far, for fear that there would be ferocious beasts. "It's my fault that Miss Tang is so angry." Lu Junhua didn't stop Tang Guo from breaking up with Do Changye because she could feel that Do Changye was suffering because he was forced to marry someone he didn't like. Now that Tang Guo was willing to break up with Do Changye, she felt happy for him regardless of whether she would end up with him in the future. After entering the city, Do Changye said, I'll send Junhua back to the mansion first. You can wait outside the mansion. I'll write a letter for you later. Tang Guo didn't answer and left in the carriage. She was chatting with Shangguan Yungu in the group. Besides, she instructed her servants to send Do Changye and Lu Junhua all the way back to the residence. She also instructed them to take note of the people who saw them because she wanted them to be witnesses later. Shangguan Yungu, Martial Uncle, I will immediately enter the palace and ask Qingchuan to help me write the imperial edict to divorce my husband. School bell, sorry to trouble you. Shangguan Yungu, no trouble, no trouble. Mei Shangji soon heard that Do Changye had brought Lu Junhua and Tang Guo to the capital city. You said that Holy King Duan rushed into the palace? Mei Shangji asked softly. Do you know what happened? How would I know? This is probably something urgent. Oh, I see. Send someone to keep an eye on the people who witnessed Do Changye's appearance and wait for my orders. Yes, young master. Mei Shangji also hurried into the palace. When he saw Shangguan Qingchuan, she was writing an imperial edict to divorce her husband with a frown. When he saw Mei Shangji, he immediately laughed. Shangji, come and help me think about how to write the imperial edict of divorce so that the other party deserves to be divorced. Divorce? Mei Shangji's eyes lit up and he said, Do you want me to write it for you? Sure, write it at the side and I'll take a look. Shangguan Yungu wasn't surprised at all. He thought that Mei Shangji knew about it too. The peak. Chapter 3276. Regarding the matter of Tang Guo divorcing her husband, after all, she was his future master. Mei Shangji had to help his master vent her anger. In the afternoon, Do Changye hurried back to the duke's mansion and wrote a letter of divorce. He did not see Tang Guo at the entrance and thought that she had entered the mansion. However, he could not find her anywhere in the mansion. Seeing that he was in a hurry, old madam stopped him and asked, Changye, what are you doing? I heard from the servants that you're looking for something in the mansion. I'm looking for Miss Tang. Old madam, have you seen her before? Isn't Miss Tang cultivating in Qingguang? Old madam asked in confusion. She did feel much more peaceful after Miss Tang left. Apart from Miss Tang and Do Changye, no one in the mansion dared to talk back to her. However, she felt that something was missing in the mansion without Miss Tang. Apart from instructing the servants to take care of the 2 pregnant concubines, she did not seem to have anything to do at all. She felt much more sluggish and listless. Old madam snapped out of her daze and thought to herself, is there something wrong with Miss Tang? Seriously, I've gotten used to being bullied by her and I'm actually missing her. Miss Tang has returned to the capital today. Returned to the capital? Old madam did not realize that she could not control her joy. Where is she? Why didn't I receive any news? Maybe she hasn't returned to the mansion. She won't return to this place in the future. She took the initiative to break up with me and she'll no longer be Miss Tang of the mansion. Do Changye waved the letter of divorce in his hand and continued, I'm looking for her because I want to give her the letter of divorce. Old madam was dumbfounded and she yelled, I forbid it. Old madam, Miss Tang took the initiative to break up with me. In this case I should fulfill her request. I forbid it because I said so. Although Tang Kor wasn't a good company, the woman who looked like Lu Junhua or even possibly Lu Junhua was even worse. In comparison, she felt that Miss Tang was better. At least, she was capable and dared to knock Do Changye unconscious and bring him back. Do Changye ignored old madam and turned to leave. Old madam, you can't stop this. I'll find Miss Tang immediately and give her the letter of divorce. Madam Dowager chased after them. When she reached the main entrance, she saw Tang Guo waiting outside. Other than Tang Guo, there were many other people around and a few of them looked familiar. Shangguan Yungu, Mei Shangji, and the little Emperor Shangguan Qingchuan, who was dressed in casual clothes. Among the people who came out, there were some whom he didn't recognize. They should be the citizens of the capital. Tang Kor, I thought you regretted it. Do Changye heaved a sigh of relief and handed the divorce letter to Tang Guo. However, Tang Guo did not take it. Tang Kor, this is a divorce letter for you. You were the one that requested to separate from me. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Go to your place, this Marquis' estate has nothing to do with you. Tang Guo slapped the divorce letter away. Do Changye asked coldly, what do you mean? Tang Guo took another divorce letter from Liqi and handed it to Do Changye. I was the one who requested to separate from you. After all, no one could interfere. My husband always went to look for other women in the middle of the night. I even bumped into him hugging other women. He even promised that if the other party was willing to marry him, he would divorce me and even send her to the nunnery to cultivate. What do you want? Tangwa handed the divorce letter to Do Changya. Nothing much. I just think that you're not qualified as a husband. Since you're not qualified, I'll divorce you. Peak. Chapter 3277. Do you think that Do Changya is qualified to be your husband? You're an irresponsible man who abandoned your wife on the night of your wedding. You even did what I said just now. He's not qualified. Definitely not. Some time ago, I saw with my own eyes that the heir of the Marquis family fell from a tree outside a house. I remember that there was an orphan and a widow living in the house. I didn't expect it to be the heir of the Marquis family. This morning, I also saw the heir of the Marquis family entering the city hugging the woman with the surname Yun. I saw it too. He did send her to the house and only came out in the afternoon. Who knows what strange things they did inside. Also, I remember that they were traveling in the same direction as the Tang family's carriage, right? Look, is this something that a human would do? Do Changya pinched the divorce letter and listened to the words of the people around him. He suddenly felt embarrassed. Tang family, you're rebelling. Tangwa glanced at him calmly and said with a smile, You've already been divorced by me. You're already an abandoned husband. Tang family, what's the matter? Can't we talk about it properly behind closed doors? Old Madame Dowager couldn't stand it any longer. How can a woman divorce her husband? Isn't there one now? Tangwa shook her head at old Madame Dowager. What? Only men are allowed to divorce their wives but not women? What kind of logic is this? Anyway, I won't allow it no matter what, old Madame Dowager said stubbornly. She didn't have time to be angry with Tangwa. Moreover, she snatched the divorce letter and tore it into pieces. Do Changya didn't stop her because he couldn't accept the outcome either. However, Tangwa took out the imperial edict from her sleeve and said, Marquis family, receive the imperial edict. Old Madame Dowager was stunned for a moment and didn't kneel down immediately. She didn't quite believe it, and so did Do Changya. Everyone hurry and receive the imperial edict. It's a real imperial edict. I saw it with my own eyes. Qing, the emperor wrote it. Mei Shangji revealed his white teeth and continued, Don't be in a daze. Miss Tang is here today to divorce her husband. Why aren't all of you kneeling? Are you trying to rebel? The General King, who was hiding in the crowd and watching all of this, couldn't help but cough. This brat really knew how to take advantage of the situation. The little emperor was too gullible. He was actually fooled by this brat. Seeing that Shengguan Yungu did not object, old Madame hurriedly knelt down. Do Changyi also knelt down unwillingly. Then Tangwa read out the imperial edict, which stated that Do Changya was not a qualified husband. There were a few harsh words, but in the end Tangwa was allowed to divorce Do Changya. Tangwa handed the imperial edict to old Madam. Old Madam, I'll leave the imperial edict in your care. Tang Corporation this, Tangwa patted the back of Madame Dowager's hand. Speaking of which, I have nothing to do with the heir. We're innocent. Don't call me Mrs. Tang. Just call me Miss Tang. It sounds nice. But, Miss Tang, have you really made up your mind? Old Madame Dowager was a little hopeless. What was this Mrs. Tang capable of? She actually followed the imperial edict to divorce Do Changya. The family members who heard about the commotion initially wanted to intervene. However, after hearing the contents of the imperial edict, they left dejectedly. Old Madam, do you think that your grandson is a good person? Do you really not think that he's a scum? Am I a fool to spend the rest of my life with such a person? Peak. Chapter 3278. Changya just hasn't figured it out yet. Then find someone who's willing to wait for him to figure it out. I won't keep you company. My prime years are going to be wasted by your son. It's such a waste. Tangwa took 2 steps back and said, From today onwards, I'm a free woman. I can find a husband or get married, but it has nothing to do with you. Tangwa turned around and left while Madame Dowager was still in a daze. The news of Tangwa divorcing her husband spread throughout the capital city within a day and became a strange topic. Some people criticized her while others admired her. Do Changya felt that many people were pointing at him and he was in a bad mood as soon as he went out. Lu Junhua knew about it too and she comforted Do Changya. No matter what, you have nothing to do with her now. In fact, she feels that divorcing a husband isn't that hard to accept. Tangwa said that a man can divorce his wife, and a woman can divorce her husband. She quite agrees. However, she did not say much in front of Do Changya. It was not strange that Tangwa would do such a thing since she was so fierce. Since you can't get along with her, it's a good thing that you're separated now. Those people talking about you will be fine after a while. Lu Junhua indeed thought so. She had also heard others talking about her and Dou Changye. She was not upset because those people did not know the inside story at all. Shengguan Yungu, Uncle Master, I found a few houses for you. When are you free? I'll take you there. Campus Bell, I found a house and it's in a good location. I like it. Shengguan Yungu, oh that's good. Where is it? After Tang Gu told him the location, Shengguan Yungu was surprised. Wasn't this the house that Mei Shangji bought with great fanfare? Shengguan Yungu, so Shangji prepared it for you. He's so considerate. He knows how to show filial piety to you. The onlookers in the group chat thought, this silly boy still doesn't know the truth? Mei Shangji had been visiting Tang Gu's house every day and he would send all kinds of fun and delicious food to her. Seeing that Tang Gu did not reject him, he understood that she did not dislike him. According to this momentum, he would soon be able to coax her home. Young Master Mei, the fruits you brought are all very fragrant, sweet and crisp. As long as you like it. Tang Gu raised her head slightly. One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Do you have any ulterior motives? Mei Shangji was a bit nervous, but in the end he decided to throw caution to the wind and said honestly, I'm not going to let you say this, but I've admired you for a long time. He had never dared to make a move. Now he finally had the chance. You're so good. I'm afraid that if I don't come over, someone else will kidnap you. Did you really just make a move now? You didn't do anything before. Mei Shangji looked into Tang Gu's eyes and confessed, I did a little. It was all insignificant things. Young Master Mei, tell me about it. Mei Shangji explained everything that he had done in detail. Then he looked at Tang Gu nervously. Actually, don't think that I'm the #1 playboy in the capital. Actually, I'm not worse than others in many things. Mei Shangji was afraid that Tang Gu would not be satisfied with his state. I'm good at both civil and martial arts. It's just that I don't like to show off. I can become whatever you like until you're satisfied. To coax his little fairy home, he could become anything. Actually, I think this is pretty good. Tang Gu raised her eyes and smiled. Your most comfortable appearance is the best appearance. The peak. Chapter 3279. Are you satisfied with me? Mei Shangji asked anxiously. Tang Gu nodded lightly. Quite satisfied. You stand out in the crowd and are very sincere in your actions. Of course I'm satisfied. Then when are we getting married? I've already prepared a lot of betrothal gifts. Actually, my things are all yours. However, the betrothal gifts cannot be small and the extravagance cannot be small. Marrying a little fairy must definitely be a grand affair. Tang Gu hesitated for a moment. She wanted Mei Shangji to say something. In the end she said, although I'm very moved, it hasn't even been 10 days. Isn't it a bit bad to get married again? Do you care about your reputation? I don't. If you do, I can wait for a while. Mei Shangji said impatiently. He had already waited for a few years. What was a little more time? Now that he was here every day, he wasn't afraid that someone would kidnap her. Tang Gu nodded. How about next month? There's still time to prepare everything. What? Mei Shangji couldn't believe it. In the end, he left hand and foot at the same time. He even almost tripped over the door sill. That day, news spread from the King of General's residence. That devil's incarnate, the #1 silk pants in the capital, was getting married. As for which girl was so unlucky, everyone in the capital was talking about it. Shengguan Yungu also couldn't believe it. Why were they in such a hurry? Could it be that martial uncle agreed to take Mei Shangji as his disciple and the other party was planning to leave a descendant for the King of General? According to his master, the higher one's cultivation, the harder it was to have a descendant. Shengguan Yungu, who thought he had guessed the truth, didn't ask in the group. When he saw Tang Gu announce in the group that she had found the next person to get married and was preparing to get married next month, he felt that something was wrong. However, he didn't connect the two together. Until the day of the two's wedding, when Mei Shangji rode a horse to pick up Tang Gu and appeared at Tang Gu's current residence, Shengguan Yungu was a bit stunned. His original plan was to attend Tang Gu's wedding first, then go to Mei Shangji's place for a drink at night. Afterwards, he watched numbly as Mei Shangji led Tang Gu onto the bridal sedan chair. He didn't even get on his horse. Instead, he walked beside the sedan chair. His attentiveness made the surrounding commoners doubt their lives. One was a dandy from the capital, a devil incarnate. One of them was a famous shrew. She had just divorced her husband last month. It had only been a month and she was already married. Such a grand display of extravagance, it was simply enviable. The people in Beijing suddenly felt that they were very uncultured and could only curse in their hearts. It was only after Tanghua and Mei Shangji had bowed to heaven and earth that the Marquis's estate received the news and found out about this matter. Old Madame Gu was dumbfounded while Do Changya did not feel anything. However, he still felt uncomfortable deep down. Yungu were even closer now. Tanghua was all smiles as she looked at Shangguan Yungu. This is my husband, Mei Shangji. You can call him granduncle from now on. Shangguan Yungu's head was still dizzy. He felt that he had lived in vain. Shangguan Qingchuan also came secretly. Knowing the truth, he did not care. However, he counted with his fingers. Originally, Mei Shangji was 1 generation older than him. Now he was 2 generations older. Uncle Master, Granduncle, I wish you both a long life together. I'll take my leave first. Shangguan Yungu wanted to calm down. He actually had a granduncle and it was Mei Shangji. Damn. Wife, don't mind him. Yungu is just feeling uncomfortable. He'll be fine in 2 days. Mei Shangji said, revealing his white teeth. Obviously he was in a good mood. Peek. Chapter 3280. Shangguan Yungu. Master, did you know from the start that Mei Shangji might become my granduncle? Mo Yintian. Yes, but you misunderstood. We didn't know how to explain it to you. Shangguan Yungu. Are you sure you weren't waiting to see him make a fool of himself? Now that Mei Shangji was so proud of himself. He kept saying that Yungu was asking for a beating. What the fuck is this? Now he didn't want to look at Mei Shangji at all. He didn't want to see him at all. He called him granduncle in front of everyone because of his martial uncle's face. Otherwise he wouldn't have called him that. But no matter what he said, it was useless. Most likely, the entire capital already knew about the marriage between Mei Shangji and Tanghua. Everyone lived in the capital. It would be common for them to meet in the future. Especially for some formal occasions, he had to call Mei Shangji granduncle. Just thinking about it made him want to vomit blood. In his life, he had never been so aggrieved and unable to seek redress for injustice. Shangguan Yungu was still a little unreconciled. How could his martial uncle, Mei Shangji, got married? Shangguan Yungu. Master, why would the school belle martial uncle take a fancy to that Mei Shangji? Shangguan Yungu. I'm not saying that he's not good. Martial uncle is an expert. Why would she take a fancy to such a silly commoner? Isn't he silly? Today when he revealed his white teeth, it was really too silly. Piao Miao, I know. Full text Shangguan Yungu. Senior Piao Miao, what's going on? Piao Miao. Actually, people who have been in this group for a long time will know what's going on. That Mei Shangji isn't a silly boy. He's a very treacherous boy. I'll tell you the details slowly. Once you've finished reading, you'll know what's going on. After understanding the cause and effect of the matter, Shangguan Yungu wasn't so angry anymore. So that silly boy is also an expert like his martial uncle. It's just that he's chasing after his martial uncle. Wherever his martial uncle goes, he follows. He's like a piece of sesame candy that can't be removed. If you're not careful, you'll pull your teeth out. Shangguan Yungu let out a long breath. He could accept it a little. Since he was an expert, there was nothing strange about martial uncle liking him. However, he still couldn't bear to look directly at Mei Shangji. Mo Yuntan, silly boy, you should be more careful in the future. When your uncle master goes to another world in the future, if you hear her mention that she met a very interesting person, you should know that this person is that thick-skinned person who chased after your uncle master, the extremely shameless kind. Shangguan Yungu, got it. However, when he thought about how he would often have to call Mei Shangji granduncle in the future, he felt his stomach ache a little. Fortunately, he and Mei Shangji didn't have much of a relationship, so they probably didn't have to see each other often. Otherwise he would be helpless. The next morning, when Shangguan Yungu went out for a stroll, he happened to see Tanghua and Mei Shangji walking hand in hand. Mei Shangji was also leading a dog with beautiful fur. In the past he used to walk the dog alone. Now that he had a wife to walk the dog with, he was very happy. Most importantly, he knew that Shangguan Yungu would also come out for a stroll. When he saw that it was Shangguan Yungu, Mei Shangji held Tanghua's hand and walked over with a smile. Yungu, why are you so early today? Chapter 3281. Shangguan Yungu, what if I want to hit someone? Look at this kid's complacent expression. There's no way to cover his teeth. He's been wanting to take advantage of his seniority for a long time now. Martial uncle, good morning. Shangguan Yungu respectfully greeted Tanghua, especially not wanting to call Mei Shangji. This kid was clearly a petty person intoxicated with success, a fox borrowing the tiger's might to bully others. Yungu, what about me? Kid, do you not know how to address me? Mei Shangji almost went up to slap Shangguan Yungu's head, but he was holding the dog in one hand and his wife in the other, unable to let go. He could only smile, revealing a row of neat teeth. You child, I just told you how to address me yesterday. You're so young, how can your memory be so bad? Granduncle. Shangguan Yungu's face was wooden as he unwillingly called out. Ah, good boy. Martial uncle, granduncle, I still have things to do, so I won't chat with you. Although he especially wanted to chat with his martial uncle about cultivation, that kid Mei Shangji kept trying to take advantage of his seniority, so he could only withdraw first. Go busy yourself. Mei Shangji waved his hand, with an expression of I understand, almost making Shangguan Yungu constipated. He decided that from today onwards, he would first live in the palace for 2 days in peace and quiet. Yungu, this kid seems to be throwing a tantrum again. Mei Shangji's face was full of worry, as if he was really worried that something would happen to the younger generation. But don't worry, my wife. After a while, he'll understand and accept our current identities. You see, even if he's feeling uncomfortable, he'll still give me face and call me granduncle. After saying that, he couldn't help but reveal a row of white teeth, which were especially dazzling. Ran Wentangwa held back her laughter and said, no matter what, you're still his granduncle, so you should call him that. My wife is still the best. System. Damn, these two really don't have any integrity. Shangguan Yungu is really too pitiful, the most pitiful group member of the year. Sympathize with him for a second before laughing. Imperial uncle, I couldn't get you to stay no matter how hard I tried. Now you're actually going to live in the palace for a while? It's really strange. Shangguan Qingchuan had a puzzled face. Imperial uncle, did something happen to you? I heard that some people only miss their old homes because they have encountered some difficulties. It's nothing serious. I just suddenly recalled the things that happened a long time ago, the things with your imperial father and my imperial father. Now that I think about it, those days were especially good. Then where does imperial uncle want to stay? Shangguan Qingchuan thought for a while. There is no prince in the prince's residence. If royal uncle wants to recall the past, you can stay in any of the rooms. Why was there still no sign of any of his concubines' stomachs? He was already working very hard, especially diligent. He would pamper each of his concubines one by one, not leaving any behind. He did not have many concubines, less than 10. He could do it several times a month, but he only rested for 3 days a month. Yet there was still no movement. Shangguan Qingchuan's expression changed. Was there something wrong with his body? He did not suspect that there was a problem with the concubines at all. It was impossible for a group of people to have a problem. The problem must be with him. Shangguan Yungu saw that Shangguan Qingchuan's expression was becoming more and more unsightly and asked, what's wrong? You can't even bear to live in a prince's residence? Originally he had come in to avoid Mei Shangji, but now he really wanted to go to the place where he used to live. There were many days in the past that were worth remembering. Chapter 3282. No, imperial uncle, I suspect that there's something wrong with my body, Shangguan Qingchuan said. Imperial uncle, do as you please. I'll summon all the imperial physicians from the imperial hospital and let them examine me to see if there's something wrong with my body. After saying that, he looked at Shangguan Yungu with a serious face and said very seriously, Imperial uncle, fortunately, there is still you. If there is really a problem with my body, the future of our Shangguan family and our eastern Shang country will depend on your efforts. Imperial uncle still didn't have a princess, it's time to remind him. Don't wait until he's old to marry a princess, the child born then won't be healthy. This was what Imperial uncle said, but he didn't have a princess himself. Obviously he also knew that giving birth to a child was a very difficult thing. Shangguan Yungu was very confused. Until the imperial physicians came, Shangguan Qingchuan raised his doubts, saying that he had favored the concubines for so long, why was there still no movement in the harem? The imperial physicians became anxious and checked his pulse one after another. Shangguan Yungu. He seemed to understand why he was asked to work hard. Shangguan Yungu looked at the busy imperial physicians, looked at the palace and almost rushed out of the door. He suspected that it was a very wrong decision to live in the palace. Fortunately, the final examination result was very good. There was nothing wrong with Shangguan Qingchuan's body. As for what was going on, they suggested to check the concubines in the harem. Shangguan Qingchuan agreed, just in time to check the bodies of the concubines. The result was still very good. Every concubine's body was very good, completely suitable for pregnancy. The imperial physicians were surprised to find that there was no strange poison in the bodies of these concubines. They couldn't help but admire Shangguan Qingchuan's eyes. Rumor had it that their emperor had truly spread the rain and dew equally. Not a single person was left out. Everyone was taken care of. Looking at these concubines, they all looked at Shangguan Qingchuan with crimson faces. They knew how hard he was trying to balance the harem. Baiwei, since there's nothing wrong, why don't I have a child? After that, he found that the concubines were very nervous, their faces were pale with fright. He waved his hand. I'm not blaming you, your bodies are very good, the imperial physician said, don't worry. I'm just curious, I want to understand. Even if he didn't have a child, he could still choose an outstanding heir. The imperial physician pondered for a long time, but there was no reason. Shangguan Qingchuan asked them to go back and think about it slowly. Meanwhile, Shangguan Yungu was already sitting on the side in a daze. In fact, he was asking Tanghua in the group what was going on. He had a feeling that his uncle master should know something. Shangguan Yungu, Shirshu, do you know what happened? Campus bell. In the original plot, none of Qingchuan's concubines were pregnant. It should be a requirement of the plot. The main character's aura hadn't disappeared yet. It was the effect of the aura. Once the halo completely lost its effect, it would no longer be able to affect him. After getting the answer, Shangguan Yungu understood and was no longer worried. Uncle Master said that it might be the effect of the halo. Shangguan Yungu explained, don't worry. When that halo disappears, you should work harder. Your concubines will be able to have children. Shangguan Qingchuan believed that. He then thought of something and asked anxiously, when is Do Changye going to rebel? He already knew a lot of things. It was said that Do Changye had a halo too. Calm down please, bookmark. Wear fast. Female supporting character, calm down. Chapter 3283. Both of them had halos. He had already realized that if he was really affected by the mysterious force, he would not end up well. According to the current situation, I'm afraid he won't dare to rebel. You're famous and I'm healthy. He won't dare to touch you. Then think of a way to make him move. Shangguan Qingchuan held his chin and soon thought of a brilliant idea. He whispered it to Shangguan Yungu. Shangguan Yungu was speechless. This guy is too mean. Indeed, this guy only knows how to be stupid in front of Mei Shangji. Now that he's plotting against someone else, he seems to be very smart. From tomorrow onwards, no, from today onwards, I'll go out of the palace every day and bring Lu Junhua out for sightseeing, lake sightseeing, horseback riding, and play all kinds of fun. Let's see if Do Changye will be anxious. Shangguan Yungu thought of a phrase he learned in the group, fishing to enforce the law. Shangguan Qingchuan went to look for Lu Junhua that day and explained apologetically, I've been dealing with a lot of things recently and neglected you. Now that I'm almost done, I'll bring you out for a walk. You must be bored out of your mind staying in the house. Actually it's fine. Lu Junhua nodded and smiled. Shangguan Qingchuan thought, she's a liar. Every night, someone would chat with her and take her out for a walk. She even said, my foot. That mysterious force really has no taste. How dare it make me like this woman? Aren't the few concubines in my harem beautiful, gentle, and talented? Shangguan Qingchuan brought Lu Junhua out to have fun every day for a month. In fact, he kept a certain distance from her. However, in Do Changye's eyes, it was an eyesore. 88 Therefore, after some discussion, he and King Ping had come up with a countermeasure. As Shangguan Yungu was healthy, it was basically impossible to poison him. In the end, they came up with a plan to frame Shangguan Yungu. They would secretly hide the dragon robe in Shangguan Yungu's house and coincidentally announce Shangguan Yungu's ambition to sow discord between the two of them. After Shangguan Qingchuan killed Shangguan Yungu, they would find a way to accuse Shangguan Yungu of being a fatuous ruler. It would be much easier to remove him from the throne. Regardless of whether the minister believed it or not, this move was going to succeed. It was indeed useful. When the various parties heard this news, they all smiled tacitly. Mei Shangji scolded in front of Tanghua, these two are idiots. What did young Master Mei say? It's like this. If Yungu wants to be the emperor, Qingchuan will not hesitate to abdicate. This kid was just forced to do something beyond his ability. Do you know why he ran out to play when he was young? He just doesn't want to be the emperor and even wants to acknowledge me as his big brother, and wants to be a silk pants. In the end, he was caught by Yungu, spanked in public and sent back crying. Tanghua burst out laughing. So there was such a thing. No wonder she felt that Shangguan Qingchuan's temperament was not like that of an emperor. He was intelligent, but his eyes were clear. Although his temperament was noble, in front of these familiar faces, he never addressed himself as Zhen, and even acknowledged Mei Shangji as his big brother. Qingchuan's idea is not bad. Do Changye can't take it anymore. Next we can punish him properly. Tanghua actually didn't want Do Changye to die so easily. It was too easy. She didn't know when she could use the things she buried in old madam's house. Junhua, I've already decided on one thing. Like to wear it quickly. Female supporting role, calm down. Wear it quickly. Female supporting role, calm down. Peek. Chapter 3284. What's the matter? Why are you so serious today? Junhua, that person has been stopping us. He's the biggest obstacle between us. So, I plan to join forces with someone to force him to step down. Lu Junhua was shocked. Crown Prince, you're rebelling. How can you do such a thing casually? You'll implicate the Duke's residence. By then, everyone in the Duke's residence will die. Yes, Lu Junhua didn't think that rebelling was a disgraceful thing to do. However, she felt that it was too risky and they might lose their lives. Hence, she was worried about Do Changye. Junhua, I actually know that you're afraid of old madam of the Duke's residence. You've heard a lot of news, haven't you? Once I help the new emperor ascend the throne, he'll be on our side. No one can stop me from being with you. Lu Junhua's heart raced when she heard that he was doing all this for her sake. However, what if this fails? Junhua, don't worry. It'll definitely succeed. Trust me. Lu Junhua was touched by Do Changye's words. She said softly, okay, I believe you. However, that person saved me once and even helped me find a place to stay. So, when you succeed in the future, spare his life and treat him well. Junhua, don't worry. He's a member of the royal family. He'll definitely be able to stay alive. The two of them continued to talk about other things and didn't realize that a bird had flown away from the tree to the palace. In the palace, Shangguan Qingchuan's face grew sullen after hearing their conversation from the bird's beak. Although he didn't like Lu Junhua, he did save her out of goodwill. He loved ebooks. Not only did Do Changye rebel, Lu Junhua didn't stop him at all. She even supported him and said that she would spare his life on the account that he had saved her. He was infuriated. Shangguan Yungu had brought the bird back from a foreign country. After training, it could eavesdrop on people's conversations and repeat it to its owner. Within a few days, King Ping entered the palace and reported to Shangguan Qingchuan about Shangguan Yungu's rebellion and the fact that he had secretly sewn a dragon robe. Is there such a thing? King Ping, who did you hear this from? King Ping looked around and said softly, it was the crown prince of the house of Marquis who accidentally discovered it. He had a servant by his side. Not long ago, that servant's wife died an unnatural death. In the end, he found a clue left behind in the room and asked the Marquis's heir to help redress this injustice. The crown prince is an acquaintance, so he asked me to investigate this matter. In the end, the investigation led to Saint King Duan. Your Majesty, you have to be careful. Even if Saint King Duan is our royal uncle, he may look like he is standing aloof from worldly affairs, but he is actually plotting something. He is ambitious. Since you've come to me to talk about this matter, you must have evidence. I don't believe that Imperial Uncle secretly sewed the dragon robe. Take out the evidence or I'll punish you. If your Majesty doesn't mind, please come with me. This subject will personally bring your Majesty to our good Imperial Uncle's residence to search for that dragon robe. Soon they arrived at Saint King Duan's residence. King Ping made a ruckus about his purpose for coming. Shangguan Yungu looked at him as if he was an idiot and gestured for him to enter. Then you can go in and search. King Ping found it strange, but he still led his men in to search. This was because Do Changye was there too, which gave him a hint to not worry. He was the one who had placed the item in the robe. How could there be a mistake? After all, it wasn't good to leave such a thing to others. Found it. Your Majesty, King Ping, I found it. There really is a dragon robe. Chapter 3285. King Ping was overjoyed. After exchanging glances with Do Changye, he hurriedly looked away. Uncle, what's this? King Ping pointed at the dragon robe and said, this is the evidence of your rebellion. Uncle, I really didn't expect you to be such an ambitious person. Shangguan Yungu looked at it seriously and said, this is the dragon robe. Uncle, since you've already admitted it, please let the emperor make a decision. Although the Shangguan family doesn't touch the royal family, we definitely won't tolerate the rebels. Shangguan Qingchuan touched his chin and walked over to take a look at the dragon robe. He muttered, Uncle, isn't this my dragon robe? Why is it with you? I picked it up outside. Maybe it was a stray cat that liked this style of dragon robe so it stole it. It's not good for it to fall into anyone's hands, so I brought it back and planned to bring it to you when we enter the palace. I see. Shengguan Yungu shook his head and continued, since it's been eaten by a stray cat, I'll burn it here. Your Majesty, you. King Ping was extremely nervous. Shengguan Qingchuan lifted Elder Long up and said, Look, did I wear this before? The size is just right. I'm tall and burly, it doesn't fit at all. The top is also torn and dirty, how could it be newly sewn? King Ping, you've misunderstood. King Ping opened his mouth and said in a flustered manner, It seems that I've misunderstood. How could you be such a person? By the way, you said that the heir of the Marquis residence told you about this. Shengguan Qingchuan looked at Dou Changye and asked, Heir, can you give me an explanation? Dou Changye knew that the plan had failed and that the other party might have realized it long ago. However, he was the one who put it there. The so-called servant did not exist at all. Maybe the servant lied to me. Where's the servant? He committed suicide for his wife, Dou Changye said indifferently without any signs of nervousness. Shengguan Qingchuan said regretfully, That's really a pity. It seems that the truth can't be found out. Uncle, I'll return to the palace first. King Ping, follow me to the palace, I have something to discuss with you. King Ping's legs turned to jelly. The emperor must have found out. He must know everything. Dou Changye was drenched in cold sweat when he walked out of the palace. He walked to the Marquis's manor and saw Qin Xinyun coming out from inside. He did not pay attention to her. This matter had to be considered at length. Changye, where did you go? You're sweating all over. Dou Changye, who was deep in thought, did not realize that there was something wrong with old Madame Gu. I just went out for a walk. Nothing much. Just in time. It's almost time for dinner. It'll be ready in a moment. The old madam stood up. I'm old and useless. Go in and lie down first. Call me when it's time to eat. When it was time, Dou Changye finished the soup in his bowl and suddenly felt that old Madame Lin was staring at him, which made him feel a little strange. Changye, it's not easy for the Marquis's mansion to be where it is today. Your grandfather and father used their lives to exchange for it. Don't lose these easy things. Got it? I won't do anything rash. Dou Changye, who had just finished speaking, felt his body go weak as he blacked out and fell onto the ground. Someone, throw the crown prince into cold water and make sure that he's infected with typhoid fever and has to stay in bed for half a month. Old Madame Gu took a deep breath and continued, after bringing him out, lock his limbs with metal chains. No one is allowed to let him out. His eyes burned with anger. Suddenly the door was opened. Old Madam pushed Lu Junhua in. Changye, I have brought Lu Madam back for you. From now on, don't do those things that harm the Hofu. As long as you don't leave the Marquis's mansion, don't rebel, and don't harm the Marquis's mansion. If you want to be together with Madame Lu, then be together. I will let you be together every day. As for Madame Lu's child, the old madam did not do anything. She let Madame Lu take care of the child and only cared about eating and drinking. She did not care about anything else. She was wholeheartedly educating the children of the two concubines. At that time, she felt that she had taken the right step. A few years later, old Madam attended the general's 70th birthday celebration with the two beautiful children. Peak that you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.